Hello developers, I'm not going to explain why AWS is the next big thing for you because you already know this. In this video, I'm going to share the top 10 most asked interview questions in AWS, especially for developers. By the end of this video, you will feel super confident about AWS development related questions because I will explain each questions step by step like this with simple diagrams and definition, and then you can easily explain these concepts in your next interview. Remember, don't do the same mistake of preparing all the random questions and then remembering nothing in the interview. Be smart, prepare less, prepare very important questions, and prepare solid. So let's start with the first question. What is the difference between Amazon EC2 and AWS Elastic Beanstalk? When to use what? Now let's unlock the mystery. When we already have Elastic Beanstalk to directly deploy web or mobile applications, why we need EC2, right? So be ready. Let's understand this properly. First main difference is here. Remember, EC2 instances are virtual servers in the AWS cloud. That means you can install any software, run any application, and manage everything inside these virtual servers by yourself. So just like you do in real servers or real CPU, your real laptop, you have to install everything to run the application, right? The main thing is EC2 is just not for application hosting. You can use it for running the background softwares or many more things. Whereas Elastic Beanstalk is a PaaS that is primarily and directly host web applications, API, mobile backends without worrying about the infrastructure. So that is the main difference between them. EC2 is like a virtual server. Beanstalk is like for only hosting the application. Okay. Now, second important difference is EC2 is user managed, meaning as a developer or DevOps engineer or infra engineer, you handle everything yourself. OS updates, patches, security groups, scaling, load balancing, application, everything you have to manage as a developer. But Elastic Beanstalk is fully managed by AWS, meaning AWS takes care of infrastructure, OS, runtime environment, auto scaling, load balancing, and even rollback during deployment. Rollbacks, that also. Now the most important part. When to use what, and here is the answer. See, you should use EC2 when you need full control of the server. Like when you are hosting very large custom application or some complex backend processing where you want full control of the server. For example, if you are deploying a banking application or something that requires very tight control over the security, you have your own security mechanisms or custom networking is there, app configuration, many configurations are there, then better you get EC2 servers which are blank. That's a right choice because in EC2 you can customize everything as per your requirements, your company requirements basically. Maybe you need some extra security, some third-party software or anything. So EC2 is just like a raw server in your hands. You can do everything with it. Now when you need Elastic Beanstalk, and you already know, you should use Elastic Beanstalk when you are building some simple to medium level mid-size web applications, APIs or mobile backends, and you want to focus on your code, not the infrastructure. You are not the IT, you have a small team and you don't want to worry about other things. So because it's much faster to deploy, automatically scales, so many features of Beanstalk I already shared, right? And it is secured also, but it is not too much customizable. So but if you, in short, full control, go with EC2. Fast deployment, go with Beanstalk. That's it. That is the answer of this question. Now you can explain it to anyone. Your client wants automatic scaling across multiple regions. Which compute option support this? Pause the video. Think about the answer. You already know this. Done thinking? Here is the answer. Amazon Global Accelerator plus regional auto scaling groups. So okay, I think I have not yet explained this Amazon Global Accelerator, but in the upcoming section network I have explained it very well. But you know, auto scaling groups you already know in each region, and route traffic using Global Accelerator and route 53. That also I will, don't worry, I will explain in upcoming questions whenever you will revise, or just keep in mind that these are the two options which will help you in multiple regions. This is specific to multiple regions, like different regions of the world. Okay, so that is the answer. And yes, if you have not accepted my never give up challenge yet, do it now. Keep giving interviews until you success like this candidate. The day you crack the interview, share your success story with me. Type never give up in comments now to accept the challenge. What is AWS Lambda function? Have you ever used them in your project? Very important question from interview point of view. Stay with me till the end and then you can explain this to anyone with example. Let's understand with the help of an example. Suppose you are a developer and your development team has created a web application in AWS. You have the front-end server built in Angular, React or JS. This front-end passes the request to the backend or API server, which can be in .NET, Java or Node. And finally, everything connects to the database. Okay, so this front end and back end can be in hosted in EC2 instances or hosted in using the Elastic Beanstalk. So that doesn't matter. Okay, can be in anything. Now imagine a user is signing up in your application like this, and during the sign up the user is uploading a photo or any kind of image document. That image document will be stored in the Amazon S3 storage like this in AWS cloud. Okay, S3 is used to store mainly the images. Okay, and I will explain in detail in upcoming question about this S3, but now you know it is in short used to store the files and images of your application. Okay, now listen carefully. Images are very large in size and or maybe videos very large in size, and large image require more space in S3, which means more AWS cost for your company because you are storing bigger files in S3. Okay, now as an AWS developer you come up with a brilliant idea or a solution to save cost of your company. You used a service in AWS called AWS Lambda. You created a Lambda and inside that Lambda you will write some code to compress the images. Okay, now what happens whenever the image is uploaded in this Amazon S3 storage bucket or account or storage, then a trigger will be fired and automatically your Lambda function and the code inside it will be executed and will compress the image, and then it will store the image. Getting my point? Before storing the image will be compressed in size by your code which is written inside the Lambda function. That means now you need less storage is required in the S3 storage and your company cost will be saved, and that's a great job, and you will get the Employee of the Month award for saving company cost. So this is a very common use case, and if you will say this in the interview, then interviewer will think that you have read it somewhere. Okay, so here is one more example. Suppose you want that as soon as a user signs in like this, a successful welcome email should be sent to the user automatically back to him. No manual thing, automatically. For this also you can write a Lambda function which will be automatically triggered as soon as a user will sign up, and the Lambda function will send the welcome email to the user. That's it. Remember, Lambda function is just a piece of code which is running behind background. Okay. Now I'm sure you are fully understood the purpose of AWS Lambda, right? And here is the simple, easy to remember definition. AWS Lambda is a serverless compute service that lets you run code in response to events. When something will happen, then your Lambda function will be triggered. Okay, some event must happen to trigger the Lambda function without managing servers. Basically, without managing servers, what is the meaning of this? That I will explain you in the upcoming question in detail. Okay, so remember, in short, Lambda function will only execute when something will happen and it is a piece of code. Alright, if this is fully clear to you, then write crystal clear in the comments or chat. That will boost your confidence and help you to never forget this concept ever in your life. Also, this diagram and this definition in the book will help you in quick revision for your interviews from the book later. Okay. Now in interviews, sometimes they ask one indirect question. Okay, this is the first question. Now they will ask, why not just write the Lambda function code directly inside the main application itself? Lambda function is just a piece of code. Why not to write inside the main application this same code? And that's a great question, and I will answer that in the upcoming question. What exactly is serverless in AWS? Is it truly serverless? Now you are going to master this serverless. So I already explained this use case of AWS Lambda in the previous question. And the biggest advantage of Lambda is it is serverless. Now listen carefully. Serverless doesn't mean that there are no servers. Lambda functions runs on some AWS server only. But it is called serverless means because you do not have to manage that server on which Lambda function is running. Okay, you will pay only for how many times your Lambda function is executed, not for the server uptime. Getting my point? So you do not have to worry about anything about that server, like setting it up, maintaining, or anything. And also remember that your main application might be running on EC2 or Beanstalk, but Lambda functions run separately and independently on some separate server which you do not have to manage. Okay, so now you may ask, what is the advantage of being serverless? So in AWS, this Lambda case, Lambda function allows you to separate or decouple some piece of logic from your main application which you already know, and that is the benefit of the serverless. It's a big benefit. Okay, so let me give you an example. See, nowadays everything is moving towards decoupling and loose coupling. For example, earlier we have that big monolithic applications where front end, back end, logic, HTML, Java, JavaScript, everything was inside one big application, right? And we call them monolithic applications. Now we are moving towards microservices. Small piece of independent services, which are loosely coupled, which are not dependent on each other. So that is the benefit of serverless, being independent. So because as compared to a big tightly coupled application, a monolithic application where you will do one change, and you have to test all the big application. That's a great risk. So these small services are important, and AWS Lambda will help you for doing the same, for decoupling the logic from your main app. Okay. Whatever logic can be run independently, like image compression, email notification, data cleanup, you can put that code inside Lambda. So that is the main reason behind the existence of the AWS Lambda, and the same is the importance of serverless and independent services, and same for microservices. All clear? Now here is the simple short answer. Serverless in Azure means running code without managing the server. And the second part, is it truly serverless? No, it's not. Servers still exist, but you don't manage them. Okay, so that is the answer. Now you will ask, AWS Lambda is triggered by events, right? So what are those triggers? What types are of those triggers, and that I will explain you in the upcoming question. Before moving forward, ask yourself just one thing. What is the point of learning AWS if you can't crack the AWS interviews? That's why I have created a complete AWS interview preparation bootcamp for you with 3 powerful tools. Number 3, 200 plus AWS interview questions from all the topics step by step. Even if you are AWS beginner, still you can learn everything here. Also, the real scenario based questions are covered. Then in this Smart Excel, you can mark questions prepared or not prepared, and therefore you can track your interview preparation progress like this. Second tool is this PDF book for quick revision just before your AWS interviews. And first tool is 10 AWS mock interviews to help you practice just like the real interviews. Many students have already cracked interviews with my courses. You can be the next. Remember, just one missed question can lead to interview rejection. Why take the chance then? Check out all the links in the description. If interested, great. If not, no worries. Let's move to the next question. Here is a short question which might be you already know. What is the difference between EC2 and Lambda? And there can be small confusion, so let's clear this. First, EC2 is a complete like a virtual machine, virtual server, whereas Lambda is a serverless compute service. Next difference, in EC2 you have to manage the EC2 server, the OS, the patches, everything inside your EC2 server you have to manage. Lambda, no server to manage. Okay, no, you don't have to worry about anything. Pricing, big difference. For EC2 you have to pay per hour or second based on the uptime. Like if your EC2 server is up, you have purchased it, you have subscribed to it, so the time it's up you have to pay for that. AWS Lambda, you have to pay per request, like how many requests from the users or from somewhere hitting your Lambda, executing your Lambda code. That, like for example, your Lambda is executed only 20 times in a year, so you have to pay only for the 20 times, not for a year. Okay. Finally, the last difference is about the use case, very important. For long running apps, and if you want full control of the machine or the server, then you can use EC2. And for the short task, event driven or independent task, some automation, some background task, for them you can use Lambda. Okay, so these are all the difference mentioned in the book here. Explain Amazon S3 storage. When would you use it in your project? Get ready. After listening this, you can explain this to anyone. Let me explain with the help of an example. Suppose you have some EC2 instances or Beanstalk instances where your applications are running. Okay. Now from these application, this EC2 and this Beanstalk, your app is running here, and from EC2 user are uploading the images, from Beanstalk user are uploading the videos, the media files, and these files, media files are coming to your application, and then the best place to store these files is in AWS is AWS S3 storage like this. Now the main question is, why is this is the best? Why not other type of storage? Because Amazon S3 is especially made for storing the large unstructured files like the media, images, videos, documents and backups. And uploading and downloading media files from S3 storage is very fast. Okay. For example, let's say you have one another EC2 and one another Beanstalk. Okay. And from these two applications are running. You want to read the images from the S3, you want to read the videos from S3, then you can directly access those media files from S3 storage through a URL like this. This is the URL. Okay, you can just use this URL and you can download those media files from the S3 storage, and that is also very fast. That's why we use S3 to store the large files like images, videos. Okay. In short, S3 is the best when you want to store large files and access them via the URLs from web, mobile, cloud-based application. Okay. And yes, there is one limitation of S3. That's same thing I have written here also. First of all, S3 is stored for large backup files. S3 when you want to access easily URLs, especially in web, mobile, there is a limitation of S3, and that is here. Editing files in S3 blob, or you can say blob storage, manually is difficult because the files are stored as objects, not as regular files. Remember, in S3 storage, files are stored as objects. So if you want to open the S3 storage and you want to edit the file manually, that's very complex, and that's not what S3 is meant for. For that purpose, there is some other storage which is Amazon EFS if you want to manipulate the files, and that I will explain you in the upcoming question. But yes, this diagram in the book and this definition will help you revise your this Amazon S3 later in a better way from the book, right? When to use Amazon RDS and when to use DynamoDB. Let me give you an example, and here is the diagram of the databases. RDS you are using MySQL and DynamoDB is your NoSQL databases. Okay, so RDS is best when your application has some important, sensitive and very high value transactions. That means the data is very critical, and you need strong data accuracy, strong data relations, you have complex queries you have, then go with RDS with MySQL or Oracle. For example, if your application is handling banking or finance data, those are high value transactions, right? Even one single mistake in data and all the money is gone, right? So in that case, data must be properly stored in a structured and secured way, and SQL RDS is the best choice. Now what about DynamoDB, which is NoSQL? Use DynamoDB when your application needs to handle very high volumes of data or transactions, and that data needs to be very fast reading and writing operations. For example, in chat applications, there are billions of messages flowing here and there, but the messages are not so much sensitive and critical as financial transactions, right? So what matters more in messages is speed of delivery of those chat messages, right? For them, you can use DynamoDB. Same way for storing like social media data, IoT, sensory readings, gaming messages. For those, DynamoDB is the good choice. Okay. So that is the difference, and here I have concluded the differences. RDBMS are suitable for application that requires high value and complex transaction, and data integrity is required, such as banking, finance and e-commerce. Whereas DynamoDB is suitable when data volume is huge, but you need fast messaging and does not need complex relationship or strict rules. In NoSQL data DynamoDB, we do not have relationships between data. RDBMS we have. Okay, so that is the answer to this question. What is Amazon Aurora and how it is different from Amazon RDS? Very simple. Here is the diagram. Here, rather than using Amazon RDS for RDBMS database, you can also use Amazon Aurora and as your RDBMS for your application. Okay, like this. So what is the difference between RDS and this Aurora? Here it is. Amazon RDS is a fully managed service for multiple databases like MySQL, Postgres, Oracle SQL, MariaDB. Okay, it's for every database. You can use RDS. Whereas Amazon Aurora is fully managed high performance database compatible with only MySQL and PostgreSQL. Okay, so this means if you are sure you have to use only MySQL or PostgreSQL databases, then go with Aurora database because it is 3 to 5 times faster than Amazon RDS. Okay, which is a great thing. But if you are unsure about the database, then you can choose the more generic one, that is RDS, because it will fit with any kind of database. Okay, so that's the simple answer to this question. What is virtual private cloud VPC in AWS? Why do we need it? By the end, you will understand this 100%. Imagine your company is hosting all its applications using EC2 instances like this and databases, resources on the AWS servers, something like this. Okay, everything I explained in the previous questions. All these resources are used by your company. Now your company wants all these resources must be secured, meaning they should not be directly open to the internet, and only the internal resources or the approved users should be able to access these resources. Okay, all these resources, because if they are open to internet, then anyone from the outside can access EC2 directly and can steal your data, can access your RDS. So we don't want that, right? To avoid this, AWS gives you something called a VPC, which stands for Virtual Private Cloud. VPC is like your company's own private network inside the AWS cloud. Once your company server databases, other sites are inside the VPC, then they can talk to each other. That's fine. But they are not exposed to the internet by default. Got it? So here is the final and simple answer. A virtual private cloud is a private network in AWS where you can place your cloud resources like EC2 instances, database, anything. And yes, AWS automatically creates this VPC, default VPC for each region. You don't have to worry about this. Okay, but yes, you can also create your own VPC and you can customize it, but AWS also provide you by default. Now if you will now you will ask if so that's point I have written you here that AWS automatically creates a default VPC. Now you might ask, if VPC by default blocks internet access, then how your web applications which are hosted here or in Beanstalk are accessible to users from outside via the internet, right? Great question. So I will explain that in the upcoming question, but with this diagram and this definition, later you can easily revise for your interviews from this book, right? What is Amazon SQS Simple Queue Service? Can you share a real world example? After hearing the answer, you will be 100% able to explain this to anyone. And this is very important, especially if you are a developer. Let me explain with the help of a real world microservices example. Imagine you are a developer and your team is building an e-commerce platform similar to Amazon. Now, most of the time we use microservice architecture for creating big platforms. If you are new to microservice, don't worry, I will give you the idea. In the microservice architecture, the application is broken down into small independent services. For example, in the e-commerce application, first the user will place the order via some front-end application, right? And that order will be received by the order service or the API, which can be in .NET, Java, Node, backend technology, etc. And it may be connected, this may be connected to some database also. Now remember, this order service or API is just for receiving the order. It will not do anything else. It will then pass the received order for further processing to other services. For example, first the order is passed to the inventory service. Okay, that inventory service will check whether the product is available in stock or not. Then it is passed to the payment service, okay, which will check whether the payment is done by the customer or not. And the last is shipping service, which arranges product delivery from the supplier to the customer. Okay, now maybe there are many more services, but we will keep it simple, short for better understanding. Okay, here as you can see, since we have many small services in this architecture, therefore it is called microservices architecture. Each of this service will do one job and is hosted separately, maybe hosted separately in separate EC2 Beanstalk instances. Okay, and maybe each service has its own separate database also. Okay, now comes the important part. All these services needs to talk or communicate to each other, right? For that we use messaging services, and one of the best way to send the order message from order service to all other service is Amazon SQS messaging service. See here, when users places the order through the app or website to the front end, the request will reach to the order service, which will then create a message, or you can say an order message. That message will typically be in the JSON format mostly, and it will contain the order ID, price, details of the order. Now listen carefully. Instead of calling these inventory, order, payment, shipping services directly from the order service to pass the message directly, we will not do it. Instead, we will use the SQS messaging service. Okay, simple queue service it is called. Inside the SQS, the order message from hundreds of users will be keep coming and stored in a queue like this. There will be hundreds of orders are coming, hundreds of each one of this is a message. Okay, then all the other services like inventory, payment and shipping can poll the SQS queue. Poll means all the services will send the request to the SQS and pull the message, order message from it. Okay, For example, inventory service will pull the message and check the order whether it is present in stock or not. Order payment service will pull the message from the SQS to check the order payment status. Shipping service will pull the message to ship the order. Okay, so that is the whole flow. And yes, here I have given the example of a very generic API, but in real applications, these API, inventory check, order, this can be the Lambda functions also. Okay, because they are very popular for pulling the messages from the SQS. Okay, now you can ask why to use Amazon SQS messaging services, why we not call the order service directly. Okay, so although maybe you know the answer slightly now, but that I will answer in detail in the upcoming question. But before that, here is the simple and easy to remember definition of Amazon SQS. Amazon SQS is a fully managed message queuing service that enables asynchronous communication between microservices, improving decoupling, reliability, and scalability. Okay, so now in upcoming question, I will explain asynchronous communication, which is the power of SQS. But this diagram and this definition will help you in quick revision from this book later. Great job, my friend. Your preparation shows your dedication for your AWS goals. Now, if this video helped you, then there are some more important questions like this. What is SNS, DLQ, SQS, CloudWatch, CloudFront, etc. All I have explained in my complete AWS interview bootcamp. Many of my students have already used my courses to crack their interviews. Now, if you don't want to miss a single question for your next interview, then check out the bootcamp and book link in the description below.